Tandem Nomads episode 283. If sometimes you feel a little bit hesitant when you have to explain what you do, or you feel like when you do that, people are not completely getting it right away, or you just want to improve your pitch, improve how you present yourself when you network, be it offline or online, well, today is your day. I'm going to share with you some of my experience and tips to be able to network and also explain what you do in an effective way. Hello and welcome to Tandem Nomads, the podcast show and entrepreneurship platform where you can find great inspiration and resources to grow a successful business that is aligned with your lifestyles and your priorities. This is your host, Emel Deregi. I'm a business and marketing coach and the founder of Tandem Nomads. Depending on where you are living at the moment in the planet, some of you might have now experienced a lot of events and networking opportunities opening up to meet people face to face, and that is wonderful. But also more and more events are happening online, and you might have tried that out as well. And sometimes, no matter if it's offline or online, it can be difficult to be really clear about what you do or explain it in a way that people remember what you do, relate to it right away, so that they can either think of you as a potential provider of that solution that you provide or refer you to people who need what you offer. So, interestingly, I have been in the past weeks experimenting myself on how to explain what I do. And it's been a very interesting experience because I've been trying different things to see how it resonates. And I felt like I wanted to use these networking events that are opening up in Austria, where I am right now, to experiment and how is it going. It's almost like I felt I needed to learn again how to network, as it was the first time that I was meeting people face to face after 2 years. But to be honest with you, offline is the same principle. It's just that you might have sometimes less time and less opportunities to give context to the stories, and we'll talk about stories. However, no matter if you are networking online or offline, the biggest principle is going to be the same. And I want to share with you a quick formula that I invite you to work on so that you make sure that you have a clear pitch, a clear 2-sentence liner to explain what you do, and then you can expand. But I also want to share with you a bit more about how to make sure that it resonates with people you're meeting, but also how to make sure to adapt that pitch line that I'm going to share with you to the context and the situation and the person you're meeting with. So if you're struggling to explain what you do very clearly, I'm going to invite you to download the one-pager that I prepared for you with a quick template to just fill in the blank to explain what you do. And for that, you'll simply go to tandemnomads.com/283 and you'll download the template with those blanks to fill out. And I'm going to now explain you the most important part of describing your business and what you do. By the way, this formula works for anything, whether you're working on your webpage, your product pages, your presentations. This is the most important thing to know about how to make sure that people understand clearly the value of what you offer. For that, you need to be, number one, very clear about who is the target audience. Be super clear at describing it very specifically, because the more specific you are about the target audience, the easier it is for people to know if you can help them, and also if they know people who actually fit to that description. Now, side note, you could sometimes adapt that who, the description of who you support, according to the context. But if you're doing this on your website or your marketing, be super, super clear about it. Because if you try, again, as I often say in this podcast, to reach out to everybody, you will reach nobody. So be clear about who's the ideal client. And number one, as I said, make sure to explain who is that ideal client. And once that is clear, then the biggest piece about being able to market your business effectively and your product effectively and network effectively so that people remember you is to be able to explain very clearly what is the transformation that you provide to your clients, the transformation from before they use your product or your service to after they use your product or service. To be able to do that very effectively, first of all, you need to know what you want to be known for. What is the problem that you want people to know that you can solve for them? So take the time to reflect on that. What is the problem that you solve for your ideal client? And I'm talking about the problem, not the solution, because very often people would say, I help people be happier. I help people find a job. But that's not the challenge. So for you to be very effective at attracting your ideal clients, you also need to know what is the problem that they initially have for them to feel that they need to fix it thanks to your service or your product. And that requires also from you to know your ideal client, because there's also a bit of a difference between knowing what is the problem you solve versus knowing the pain point that your clients experience. So the problem is the general disease, and the pain points are the symptoms of that disease. Most people who are sick will go to the doctor, not telling to the doctor what they have, which is the disease, but complaining about the symptoms they have. Sore throat, coughing, fever, these are all symptoms, and this is what people want to fix most of the time. So spend the time listening to ideal clients and see what are the two big pain points that people complain most about when it's about their problem, the one that you fix for them. But if you're starting in this business, or even if you've been in business for a while and you still sometimes struggle to explain what you do, call some of your clients or your potential clients or people who fit to that ideal client and have a conversation about the problem that you fix for them and how do they experience it? What are the challenges they experience around that challenges? For example, if you are an entrepreneur, the big problem is that it's hard to find clients. But the real challenges is overwhelm with so many marketing strategies, lack of clarity, feeling stressed, and all of these things. So this is, for example, a difference between the problem and the challenges is lack of clarity, overwhelm. These are all the symptoms around the fact that it's hard sometimes to find your ideal clients, or to know how to find them. So this is the first part. And then the second part is to know very clearly what you can offer them on the other end. Once they work with you, what will they experience as an outcome of the work with you? And finally, one of the pieces, and can be great to also be able to describe very clearly, is how do you take them from before and after? What is the method that you use to take them from the pain point to the results? So this is the big picture and the sort of theory behind how to make sure that you're explaining what you do really well when you meet people, but also on all your marketing materials. You need to be very clear, as I said, number one, about who is this for? Number two, what is the transformation you provide from before to after, which leads to knowing the pain points and the results. And finally, being clear about how do you take them from the pain points to the results. So this is really important. And I'm going to share with you now 2 examples of how you could do that with those key sentences that you can then personalize. But this is the template that I'm giving you that you can fill out simply the blanks to help you explain in just few words what you do in an effective way. So one of the ways to do it is to say something like, I work with XYZ, and then you explain who, and then I help them go from X to Z, X being the pain points, Z being the results. For example, in my case, I would say something like, I work with ambitious and impact-driven women entrepreneurs. I help them go from stuck on how to turn their goals into reality to having clarity on the right strategies that will continuously attract their clients and take their business to the next level. So you can see how I've been clear about the who, and then about what was the situation before, which is stuck and lack of clarity, to knowing what are the right strategies for them to be able to attract their clients consistently and to take their business to the next level. And once you finish that 2-sentence liner, you can then go a bit deeper into explaining how you do that. Which leads me to the second way you can do this exercise with the template that I have for you, is to actually use a formula where you say something like, I work with XYZ, your ideal client, who struggle with X. And then you say I, and you explain your method and how you do what you do so that Z, which is the result. So let me show you an example. This is, for example, for a business of a nutritionist. I work with busy mompreneurs who struggle with finding the time and energy to cook healthy meals for themselves and their families. I design personalized meal plans with delicious and easy recipes, that's how they do it, so that they don't have to worry about food anymore and feel proud to cook healthy meals that even their children love to eat. And that's the result. So one side note here, I read this very slowly for you so that you can get the process of doing it. But when you read it quickly or you say it quickly in a natural way, that's the way where you want to test it, right? So I work with busy mompreneurs who struggle with finding the time and the energy to cook healthy meals. I design personalized meal plans with delicious and easy recipes so that they don't have to worry about food anymore and feel proud to cook healthy meals that even their children want to eat, right? So this is how you want to think as well of your pitch, is make sure that when you read it out loud and you say it, not read it, when you say it out loud, it rings well and it's clear and it feels natural. So make sure to use words that you use on a spoken language and not just a written language. So you can see here, this is a bit of a longer version where we integrate the how. We start in the first part with the who and what's their problem, and then how you work, what's your method, and what's the result at the end of that work or that product or service that you provide. So hope you understand the principle here of the who, the transformation, and how you provide that transformation. So if you want to practice, use the template that I have for you on tandemnomads.com/283. Also, what I recommend you to do once you've practiced that pitch with the template is to practice with some friends and peers that you know. Send it to them in written, but also try to find some people, some friends, people who can give you some great feedback, and say that to them to see how natural it feels when you say it out loud. The more you practice it, the more feedback you get to it, the more you'll be able to fine-tune it in a way that it's impactful. Obviously, if you're just starting out, the more factual you are, the better. But if you can also add a bit of a wow effect, a bit of a fun impact, put in your personality as well into it. Once I've heard a rescuer give the best pitch I've ever heard in my life. So somebody who actually is one of those emergency rescuers in the mountains, and he was saying, I jump from helicopters to save lives. I found this so cool. So if you manage to find something fun and catchy like that, it can be even better than trying to explain the whole thing. And that's actually the biggest advice I have for you. These templates are going to help you have clarity around what you do and the transformation you provide. But the shorter you can make it, the better it is to be impactful. So think about how you can go from that template to a couple words, just like I jump from helicopters to save lives. However, I want to share with you my experience as I've been networking again with this formula. So this formula is really good for you to get prepared and ready to have something that's easy for you to say very quickly, especially when you're networking. You need to prepare that, and especially think about also what type of event you're going to, for example. Make sure to know what type of people are there, because then even if you have a very specific niche in your marketing, you can also target it specifically to the people you're going to meet there. Even if you do the same thing, you can also target it to the specific challenges of that target audience you might meet at that event. So that's the first thing. Prepare, know your general pitch, in general who they are with your ideal client, and then see before you go to an event if there's anything you want to fine tune to make sure that people who are in that event, that the type of people who are in that event will resonate. For example, in my case, if I go to an event with expats, I will say I work with expats or I work with expat partners. But if I go to an event where people are not expats or don't even know what that means, I will actually describe them differently. And this is why I said I work with ambitious and impact-driven women entrepreneurs. Because I was going to an event with women entrepreneurs that were not expats, but they were women entrepreneurs. Just like as the majority of the clients. Although I do work with some men, the majority are women. And all of them want to use their business to create financial independence and wealth, but also make an impact in the world. So think about that, how you can adjust that to make it really resonate. So this is the first thing that I want to share with you about this formula. But then here is another thing when networking I think is even more powerful than this template. Again, this template is super helpful to be clear and quickly say the keywords that people will remember and resonate with. However, what I've learned over time, and it got confirmed in the past weeks, storytelling is what people resonate with most. So one of the things that I always try to do before even I explain what I do is to have as much information as I can about the person I'm talking to. I ask them about their journey and I try to find what's going to be that common denominator that's going to help me tell them their story, tell them the story around what I do. And this could be slightly adapted depending on who you're talking with and what you learn from them, but also according to the time you have. Sometimes in networking events, you have to be pretty quick and don't necessarily have the time to tell the whole full story. So when you tell the story around what you do, really try to find a way that it really resonates with that person more than just trying to tell the full story around your business and how you started and why you do it and the mission around it, etc. Because indeed, one of the things that people resonate most when it's about a business is to understand the mission behind it. What is it, that big problem, that overall problem you want to solve and in the impact you want to make? And to do that, tell the story of how you got to do what you're doing and also the stories of your clients. This can be very impactful. I often do that. I share some inspiring stories of my clients and their success stories to inspire the people who I'm talking to as well. And that is actually the best way to showcase some of the results you can provide to your clients. So for example, for me, when I go to events when it's all about women empowerment, I talk about my story about how Korea was everything for me as a woman and my financial independence was everything. And when I had to give up my job to be able to move abroad with my husband, that has caused a big stress for me because being dependent on my husband was not even an option for me. And that's how my entrepreneurial journey started. But then very quickly I met other women who were feeling so depressed and feeling so lost and loss of identity and confidence, but also being in very bad marriages and stuck in those marriages because they were financially dependent. And that is what got me to really feel upset about this situation and start a podcast to simply share inspiring stories for these women to feel and know that they can do something about this. And for me, my biggest message is that entrepreneurship is the solution for women who want to continue to support their families but don't want to give up their dreams. And entrepreneurship is one of the best ways to create revenue, have purpose, and make an impact in the world. So I gave you here some of the things that for me are important. And I sometimes, if I have the time, tell more things, more details around it that can be memorable. Or sometimes I give fun stories, some crazy things that happened to me in my life. I remember in some cases talking about things that are not directly related to my business, but to things that happened in my life. For example, when I was selling encyclopedias door to door in Utah, or when I had a crazy car accident that made me realize some important things in the way I lead my life now. So connecting people also on the personal level is important when networking. And sometimes that's even more important than people knowing what kind of business you do, because then you can continue that relationship later and make it more clear for them what you actually do. So try to feel as well your moment. Try to feel that relationship and that conversation. Be natural in it. It's important that people know what you do, but sometimes it's even more important that you really connect with that person and find the common things that you can connect with to build that relationship, regardless of the business or not. But being prepared is the key and the purpose of this episode. Being prepared before you go to that event, and being intentional with every person that you meet. Really be interested instead of interesting. That's something that one of my great friends, Stephanie Ward, keeps saying, and I have a great episode with her where she was saying that. So make sure that all your focus goes into being interested in people so that you can learn about them and know how you can help them. And by the way, maybe sometimes it has nothing to do with your business. Maybe you can help them in other ways. Connect them with people you know, give them some advice you have around other topics. I know that, for example, I've been networking with women, and a lot of them were single and were struggling to actually find a partner who would deal with a strong woman. And that's something that I remember connecting some friends who were single so that they can share their experience and find ways that works for them to build a relationship while growing their businesses. Interesting, right? So really be intentional while you try to meet people and meet with your ideal client so that you can build those deep and long-term relationships down the road and grow a very valuable network. It's all about giving value as well as you try to build those relationships. Which leads me to actually recommend you one of my favorite books when it's about networking and growing your network, written by Bob Berg. And I was so honored to have him on the show. He accepted to come on the show, though he's this big brand and leader in the field of sales and networking. So I highly recommend you to check his book called The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. And in the link of this episode, I will share as well the interview with him if you're interested to learn more about how you can build a really powerful network. And on that same page, as I said, you will also find the template that I prepared for you to start practicing your two-liner pitch and explain very clearly in a compelling way what you do when you meet people. But also, as I said, remember that whole transformation process that I shared with you earlier, because the more you can explain in general what you do in terms of the transformation, the better you'll be able to market your business and promote your services and your products on whatever platform you use, from your website to social media, etc. So remember that process, practice with the pitch when you network, but also keep that in mind when you do anything regarding your marketing strategy. Ask yourself, is the transformation very clear? And is it very clear to whom I provide that transformation? All right, so download your free guide. It's on tandemnomads.com/283. Practice. And then don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or if you want to share with me any feedback. I'm always happy to hear from you. And as well, if you find this episode useful, please share it with your friends and also leave a review. I would very much appreciate if you could leave a review and help me find other great entrepreneurs like you who need some inspiration to grow their businesses and take it to the next level. I can't wait to hear from you, and stay tuned to turn your challenges into great opportunities.